This is Jimmy.
Hello.
Jimmy's also tightening my headset because I didn't tighten it very well because I put the wrong spacer in it when I was tweaking it. Today we're going to do a video, 5 tubeless setup tips, because we're going to change my tyres over to a bit more of a burly rugged tyre, specifically for tracker, which I'm going out to. At some point this video will come out, probably quite a bit later than planned because I'm so behind on my schedule of videos. But it will come out and we're going to do 5 tubeless setup tips. Do you reckon you've got 5?
Yeah, I reckon I need to think about a couple of them. Probably as we do it, they'll probably just come to me as we sort of go through the process, but yeah, there'll be 5.
There'll be 5. So the reason why I'm changing the tyres over is currently on this bike is the Schwalbe G1R, which is a proper racing tyre. It's a fantastic tyre, but it has a very thin carcass and membrane, which means it doesn't have that much punch protection. Super fast, but don't always necessarily want a fast tyre. So I'm changing it for this, which is the Schwalbe G1 Overland. It's a bit more punch protection, still a pretty fast tread. The tread's actually quite similar. I'll do this. It's kind of similar. Same sort of tread. Slightly different, but it's got nicer knobbles on the outside. So if it's a bit rough and burly, it rides really, really well. This particular tyre is what I was using at Dirty Reaver as a 40mm tyre. The dark matter has clearance for 45, so I'm a big believer of putting the biggest tyre on the bike that the frame will allow. Because, especially for long distance stuff, it helps with comfort, and comfort is fast. Comfort is king, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I run 28mm tyres on a time trial bike. Go on, hit me, mate. You got a tip? Taking the tyre off.
Taking the tyre off, I would always, basically, I should have done this earlier, but when you need to get that last little bit off, you need to kind of pull the bead into the centre of the wheel, and then it will make it really loose round by the valve. When I put it back on, we'll go through this better because it's more for that last little pop over the edge. But people always they're always trying to get their tyres off at the other end because they think, I don't know, maybe they watch some video later down the line, but then it just makes it so much tighter because of the actual valve. Start at the valve, finish at the valve. That's like the easiest little line, I guess, to say.
Look how lovely those rims are taped.
Yeah, they're nice actually. Was this Nick?
This was Charles. Charles at Saddleback.
Ah, okay.
The king of taping rims.
Yeah, that is really good.
He's got a special tool to do it, which is called his thumb and a cloth.
That's good. That's good. But something to always check, this can be maybe number 2, is check the rim tape when you're swapping tyres, because quite often, obviously the valve is here, you always over tape, but see how there's like a little flap there? Yeah. It's fine because it's miles away from where you've started, sort of thing, but if that starts to undo or you start to get too much sealant in there, it's an easy point for sort of the sealant to get through or the air to get through, and then say you're running a wheel that's got the nipples on the outside, whereas this is internal, it can sometimes leak air or through there. So tip 2.
Check your rim tape.
Check your rim tape.
With rim tape, it's all generally the same kind of stuff. Like, no rim tape. The quality is pretty good wherever you get it from, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple out there that are maybe not quite as sticky, but yeah, if you stick with them, you know, the brands, or to be honest, most wheels will come with, say a wheel comes and it says tubeless ready, but it's not a tubeless ready wheel, it'll normally come with the rim tape in the box, and that'll be completely fine, and it'll be the right width for your wheels that you've got. So yeah, it's a good rule of thumb. Stick with the brand that you're on.
We are using Styrkr's Ultimate Tubeless Sealant with fiber foam technology. Foaming natural latex formula, environmentally safe, contains no ammonia, so it doesn't kill fishes. Combines the sealing power of race-specific formulas for 6+ holes with the longevity of endurance formulas, which is 120 to 180 days. Lasts up to 1 year when maintained with Styrkr Ultimate Tubeless Sealant Replenisher. This sealant basically contains carbon fiber from recycled bicycle, race car and aircraft components, and that is why it seals so well. If you've seen things with Nick recently, he raves about this sealant. You rave about this sealant. It is quite an expensive sealant, but it does seem to seal everything.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's by far the best. So I use another brand sometimes for off-road use, but in Velo Bavarian we do 2 different sealants, but Styrkr is what I will use as our more premium stuff, and definitely more for road. So if, you know, in this scenario we used it for off-road stuff, but if someone's wanting something that will seal a 73 psi plus tyre, then this is what I'd go for. So, but I'm breaking a rule, but not breaking a rule, if that makes sense. So we're lining up with your little tab line on the Schwalbe.
So Schwalbe put this TLE, which stands for Tubeless Easy, tab line on their tyres. The reason why they do this is it's to basically line up where your valve is. It does break a rule which some people do, which is about lining up the logos on the rim, but it also is designed to be a thing that gives you a waypoint so you know where the valve is. So it's kind of good and bad.
Yeah.
Breaking rules is fun though.
Yeah, it goes against what maybe a classic mechanic would do. So going back to my first point where I say finish at the valve, I will almost, like now for example, I've left the gap where I'm going to pour my sealant into, because the Styrkr sealant you can't put in through a syringe because it will seal the syringe. I leave that at the valve. So when I'm basically now, all I will do is I'll pinch the tyre so that it is in the centre of the rim.
Which is where the rim is lowest in terms of the diameter, is that right?
Yeah. So in a sense you want it to be as in as possible all the way around, so that now if I wanted to, I could pop this on, but I'm going to stop there and I'm going to pour your sealant in. And then if it's not quite enough, you can go around and work it back into that canal a little bit more. Don't be worried about getting a little bit on the ground. It can just clean up. Most of these sealants nowadays are water soluble, so you can just rinse it off with a bit of water. But you basically want to rotate it around so the sealant then sits in the tyre that's already down, and then you should be able to just pop it on.
Here's a random tip I'm going to give. Clean your mess up.
Always, especially on a slippy floor like this. We're going to get some gym matting or gym flooring in here soon, because sealant and brake fluid, if a little bit drips off, it gets very slippy in here. So yeah. So
tyre is now on the rim. Very good success.
Yeah.
Sealant is in the tyre.
So now, this is, I guess, tip 3, I guess. This is probably the best thing you can have at home for setting up tubeless yourself at home. If anyone's going to try it, you can try all day with a track pump and stuff like that. But these are £50, £60, and you know, you may have it forever sort of thing. So get a booster, and in a sense what you do is you pump this up. If you gravel, I normally pump this up to about 100. If it's road, I pump it up to about 130. That does not mean you're going to put 100 or 130 straight into your wheel, because some will come out through the sides as it pops on. But in a sense, this probably still got a little bit left in it, but you'll turn the little lever and it will fire it in.
The reason why you pump the pressure up so high is because it causes the air to go very quickly out at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you will obviously lose a lot of that pressure through the sidewall as it pops it on to the sort of rim. So for all wheels now, I will always take the valve core out at this point. Sometimes some rim and tyre combinations you can pump up with a track pump. I'd leave the valve in, the core in for that, but I'll kind of always take it out at this point because it'll be able to go into the wheel, into the tyre a lot faster if you take that out. So if you're having trouble with it in, I would always sort of take that out and you'll find it'll pop straight on.
That's a great tip.
Later on.
Because then you effectively, when you take it off again, you just pump it back up. setting the tyre is the thing, right?
Normally, once it's seated onto the wheel, most of the time when a tyre is seated, it won't pop off then. Some combinations, again, if you maybe running a too wide tyre with a too narrow rim, it'll pop back off. But what I find is once it's seated, it'll be fine. You can even, let it all the way down and it won't just pop straight off. So yeah, just take the valve core out, it's quicker.
I have people in other videos say that I should put black tyres on this bike.
Maybe the grey matter, this one's got a bit more sort of gold, and you've got your little orange bits and bobs on it as well.
Grey matter's got the same tyre on that we're putting on now. You use the trap pump to pump this up, and this is now connected to that. Yes,
basically. So now, hopefully, when I flip this switch, it should pop it straight onto the bead. Now, for example, obviously we pumped it up to just over 100. It's now got 30 in it straight away. So you could actually ride this as it is, but what it has done is now, it's just something I will just check before I undo the pump, is most tyres will have a little line basically that runs all the way around. If you can't see that little line, which is basically on the edge of the bead, it normally means that a bit of your tyre hasn't properly popped onto the bead, onto the rim. So I would then just put a little bit more air in, and you'll get one last pop, and then it'll normally pop on, and then it's seated correctly then.
We've got 3 pops there, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
3 is normally on.
Yeah, normally.
I mean, 2 is generally
here,
on.
For example, like this bit here where it's lost a little bit of sealant out, that was probably the last one, as in it's probably just popped on that last little bit. It wasn't my smoothest one, but I've probably still got, I don't know, 10 psi left.
Nice. That's alright.
Then I don't have to pump it all the way from 0 again.
Tyre didn't come off the rim or anything, that was easy.
Nah, definitely not. I just like to sort of try and be quite quick with it, because some combinations going back, 5 years or so would pop off. Again, it's more if you're going for sort of an older rim and a modern tyre, you may have a few issues where it'll pop off. But if it does, you can be quick with it, where you sort of take like I did then, you take the booster off, put your finger over the hole, put the valve core in quickly before it goes all the way down. And normally you can catch it where it's still got like 10 to 20 psi in. I'll sometimes pump it back up to like 40, for example, on a gravel one, before I then undo it, so it's maybe a little bit higher than I'd run it.
But just make sure it's all seated, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is my favourite tool in the whole shop.
What is this?
This is something that Luke laughed at me when I got it, but it makes complete sense. Basically, it's, say someone drops off a set of wheels and they're not leaving you the bike. I always, especially if I'm setting them up tubeless, I like to kind of, sometimes it's a bit tricky when people kind of want their wheels back quickly, but all mechanics will say you almost want to leave them overnight, make sure that they've completely stayed up, they're all fine. So this tool, in a sense, what you basically do is you put your wheel on and it allows you to spin the wheel, aka spreading the sealant out over the whole wheel without having a bike here and spinning it up in the bike. So now I've got just into a habit of every single wheel I set up tubeless, I'll leave it spinning and then I'll go set up the other one. This scenario, I could have put it in the bike, but
this looks cool.
Yeah.
You've got to use your favourite.
It's my favourite tool, so I've got to use it.
Hello. I'd like to buy some clothes.
This is a mechanic bit, not a clothes bit.
Oh, excuse me.
Got another tip?
So the next tip, before, when you're in this scenario, you're just about to flick your booster on, just check that your tyre is either side of the valve. Sometimes when you've got quite a narrow valve or whatever, it can sit, I'll show you that now, it can sit like that. Mm-hmm. And then, for example, if I flick that now, it would just fire the air straight out. It wouldn't pop it on.
It would fire air and jizz into your face.
It probably would, yes. So then all you need to do is just manipulate the tyre a little bit so that it's basically either side of the valve. It's hard to show, but
it's covered and it's
covered,
it's
yeah.
not going to
So
leak
now-
out, right?
When I flick this, it will go straight into the tyre.
So we learned that it was 4 pops.
4 pops. It did 1 extra later once I pumped it back up to 40.
2,
So
3, 4.
there we go.
That was really easy.
Yeah, tubeless is nowhere near as scary as people think. I think it's just you do a few small things right, and it makes it a lot easier. Smooth, things like getting a booster just makes the rest of it so much easier.
The things I've learned about tubeless when I've done it at home that are important to do is using a compression pump thing like this booster thing, or you can buy pumps that have like a cylinder on them. There's plenty out there, loads of different brands make them. As Jimmy said, making sure the tyre is in the centre of the rim, which is just going to make it easier to get on and off. Especially I've found with smaller tyres, that tends to be more of a problem. With gravel, not so much because they're bigger tyres.
Yeah, and as you go for a more narrow rim, especially, sometimes it's really tough to get like a narrow rim with, a particularly tight tyre. You definitely just need to just go round the tyre and just pinch it in, and it pops on a lot easier.
The Styrkr sealant, as we've sort of said, they actually gave me this bottle, so thank you, Styrkr. The sealant is genuinely probably one of the best sealants that I've ever used. It is a more premium product. It is more expensive. There are very good sealants out there. The other sealant I've used a lot is Schwalbe's own sealant, which is actually the same as Stan's race sealant, which loads of brands actually use Stan's sealant and just rebrand it themselves. But there are plenty of good sealants out there. I would really suggest, especially for road bikes, this stuff seems to be the one that works great, but we're at a lucky advantage that we can put it in my gravel bike as well because I had it.
We, at this shop, we could pick any sealant we want. We can go for any brand. We've got accounts with most people, but we brought them on as our premium, our slightly better. I'm running it this year. I had quite a big puncher this weekend. I still had to plug it, but it then sealed fine. I rode home, no more issues. Whereas I think some other brands I've had in the past where I've plugged and plugged and plugged, and still had to just put a tube in.
The thing to remember with tubeless is if it all really does go wrong, you can put a tube in.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's a little bit messy on the side of the road, but most of these sealants as well now are water soluble, so they're not going to kill the turtles and stuff like that. They'll be fine to sort of wash away if you get a little bit on the ground and stuff, but you can, worst case, take the tyre off and just put a tube in like you would have any other wheel, from the past. Should we say?
Thanks, Jimmy.
No worries, Chris.
Again, if you have any questions or anything you want Jimmy to answer, we will answer them. And we're going to keep doing videos like this on various different things when I've got random things that I need help with, because I think it's quite useful. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. That looks mint.
Yeah, I think it actually looks better with black tyres.